Greetings, family. Peace, love, and black power. This is Guru. Thanks for visiting my channel. Proposed South Africa law could get you up to 10 years in jail for racist speech. A bill criminalizing hate speech is on the table after a series of racist incidents came to light on social media. Let's go to this article. So, family, racist rhetoric in South Africa could land you behind bars for 3 to 10 years if the country moves to adopt a new draft law criminalizing hate speech. So, before I move on, family, I'm just curious because if they're going to outline exactly what hate speech consists of, who are the people who decide what hate speech is, and then how do they enforce it with all people, considering that there are the Africans, the native Africans from South Africa, and then you have the Dutch who call themselves the Afrikaners, who are white, who actually are from Holland. How do you decipher what is considered racist hate speech from each culture? That's the question. But let's move on. The South African government released the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill this week, which builds upon the Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act passed in 2000. The hate speech bill was approved for public consultation by Cabinet this month. Parliament is set to take it up after the public comment phase ends on December 1st. Those convicted of hate speech, vaguely defined in the bill as the advocacy of hatred, quote, by means of any communication whatsoever, unquote, could be fined or face up to 3 years in prison for a first-time offense. Repeat offenders could be jailed for up to 10 years. Well, more than 2 decades since the abolition of apartheid, a 46-year period of legally enforced racial segregation, South African politicians and lawmakers say black people, who make up 80% of the population, are still grappling with racism and wider discrimination. Now, before I move on, family, I just again have to point this out. That is, I don't understand how it is in a country that is comprised of a majority, 80% population, is withstanding and putting up with a minority group of people there who are still inflicting their racism and discrimination on them. I don't understand that when there is a majority of people and you're allowing a minority of people to do that. But I digress. I'm going to stay on this point on this article. It's just some questions. South Africa held its first racially inclusive elections in 1994, the year when leading social rights activist Desmond Tutu declared the country a, quote, rainbow nation, unquote. The post-apartheid constitution was founded 2 years later on values including, quote, non-racialism, unquote, but in recent years, social media platforms have allowed a new wave of racism to surface. Well, in 2016, it kicked off with a spate of social media posts demonstrating the state of domestic racism. In a hate-filled Facebook post in early January, Penny Sparrow, a white member of the Democratic Alliance, the official opposition party, called black people, quote, monkeys. The next day, Chris Hart, a prominent white economist, tweeted that apartheid victims were increasing, quote, along with a sense of entitlement and hatred towards minorities, unquote. So, family, before I continue, I want to point out something else. Once again, we see that it is white people. It is, once again, white people who are the aggressors and those who are causing the problem. And so here it is, we have this person by the name of Penny Sparrow, a white member of the Democratic Alliance, who called black people monkeys. See, that's something that a white person did. No one told her to do it. She went out and did it on her own. thus creating a problem. She's a white person creating a problem. Instead of keeping her ignorant comments to herself, instead she goes on the offense and takes out her racism and calls out other people and calling them names. With that said, I want to remind her that she is the one, a white person, who has the monkey DNA along with the Neanderthal DNA. She's a subspecies as far as I'm concerned, not even fully human. So while she sits here and posts her little Facebook, hate-filled Facebook post, I'm here to tell her that if anyone looks like a monkey, it's surely probably her, with those thin lips, just like what monkeys and apes and primates have, with those thin lips, flat asses. I can go down the list, but I'm not going to. But there's plenty similarities between a white person and a monkey, more so than anyone else on the planet. So if I was Penny Sparrow, I would probably do a little more research before she goes off into calling black people monkeys. Maybe she might want to look at her family tree and find out where her ancestors came from. She'll find out that right after those monkeys on the evolution chart pops up her daddy. Anyways, back to the article. So family, South Africa's economic freedom fighters, the EFF party, immediately addressed the incidents in a press release. The year 2016 has opened with a stark reminder of the painful reality that anti-black racism in South Africa has become normalized, the party wrote. Quote, what used to be closed-door dinner conversations are now being hanged in the open and in full view of everyone through status updates on Facebook and Twitter. Unquote. Now, before I move on from that point, I just want to say that yes, social media has allowed racists of all kinds to come out of the woodworks and peddle whatever they peddle. With that said, I want to repeat something here. It's funny that this person, it's not funny, but not unusual that the person says the year 2016 has opened with a stark reminder of the painful reality that anti-black racism in South Africa has become normalized. That is an issue with white folks. White folks with racism and their discrimination and their hatred has become so normalized that they don't see it as a problem because it's become normalized to them. They don't see it as a problem. So whenever you talk about therapy or seeking help, well, they don't see that they need help. Thus, the continuance of the problem. They're in flat denial. They don't want to ever see the truth. They constantly point their fingers at other people and say to them, you should take responsibility, and they never take the responsibility of white racism, of white discrimination, of white crime. They never want to take discrimination. They never want to take responsibility for their issues, but they surely want to point their fingers and ask you to. That's a problem. That's a problem, white people. You have to take responsibility first. First, because this is a system and a problem that you created. I want to remind you back to that Facebook post that this white girl started. Without that, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. There probably wouldn't need to be a law in South Africa regarding hate speech if it wasn't for white people. See how special you are? I just want to remind you how special you are. That we have to create laws too, just for you. Back to the article. The African National Congress, the ANC, also issued a statement calling for legislation to criminalize any act that, quote, perpetuates racism, unquote, or, quote, glorifies apartheid, unquote. Very good point for the ANC to also call for legislation to criminalize, because white people have a desire to constantly glorify what they do. And so I would imagine in South Africa, I would imagine that the Africans in Africa have had to endure the many stories told about the apartheid history and how Afrikaans became to be and all their history and glorifications. Because we see how Europeans do it here in America. They've glorified their own history at everyone else's expense. So here it is, we have an educational system based on you knowing all about Europeans and what they do. It's a faulty educational system. So this was supposed to be a different a vlog, but I guess I'm gonna include this discussion in this. But it's a faulty educational system. It's based on false intelligence, if you will. If you have to be deemed highly intelligent or have an high IQ based on knowing European factors and facts and figures, I'd say that you're a dumb mofo because that's all you know. And with that said, I would just say you're a trained monkey. For that matter, a trained monkey, because it takes a trained monkey, right, to know all the facts and figures about this one group of people. You're a well-trained monkey. But I digress. We're going to go back to the article. So, family, in the context of our painful past, racial bigotry and apartheid must be considered serious human rights violations that must be punishable by imprisonment, the ANC said. Exactly. The current legislative provisions are not sufficient to punish and dissuade racists. That's a problem. I'm glad that the ANC is speaking up and making sure that these provisions are provided in this law. Because you can't have a law just covering one group of people and you're allowing another group to get away with theirs. That is racism, that's white supremacy, and that has to be rejected by any and all means necessary. By any and all means necessary. Rejected. So in March, South Africa launched a national action plan to combat various forms of racism and xenophobia. The plan serves as a basis for the development of a comprehensive legal strategy. Currently, hate speech related cases are handled in civil courts rather than criminal courts. Even in its early stages, the hate speech bill, which was drafted after extensive analysis of similar pieces of legislation in countries like Kenya, Australia, and Canada, has caused widespread controversy. Well, family, critics fear that criminalizing hate speech could set a dangerous precedent infringing upon freedom of expression, but South African Justice Minister Michael Masutha insists the bill would not only hold offenders accountable, but would also help authorities track and monitor hate crimes. The bill's creation was necessitated by, quote, recent racist utterances and many other incidents of vicious crimes perpetrated under the influence of racial hate, unquote, he explained. Proposed amendments to the bill will likely be introduced into Parliament in early 2017. Well, let's hope these towns were named a long, long time ago. Segregation signs? Okay. KKK. Not quite perfect is a real understatement here. By the way, family, these are ridiculous examples of accidental racism that I'm showing here. And on this one here, it says yikes. No matter how many X's you put on there, it's pretty obvious what, quote, I beat blacks, unquote, sounds like, right? I'm sure you get that too. Not cool. And of course, here, the addition of the word waiter in this description doesn't really do much good, does it? They could have just named it corkscrew. Oh, there's something about that day bad that just doesn't sit well with us, but we can't put our finger on it. It has nothing to do with that day bed. It has more to do with that swastika on the wall. And of course, we have here on our receipt, the lady that purchased this order was the Lady Chinky Eyes. You get pizza with a side of racism. And here we have one woman who was surprised to find that along with her veggie bowl, she received a discount for having best butt and best looking. And of course, we have Alex Asshole, who goes and gets his dry cleaning done. So that family, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. That's truly appreciated. If you like this vlog, please share it, like it, and if you haven't already, subscribe. This is Guru. Peace, love, and Black Power. Until next time, thanks again for watching. I'm out.